Like you have to pay some bribe money, like
Wow.
literally, to get to even be allowed to have a conversation with the manufacturer.
Khleif.
Welcome to another edition of Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif, and I am thrilled you're here. I know you're going to get tremendous value from the gentleman I'm interviewing today. I met him at a conference and had dinner with he and his wife and a bunch of other people, and was very impressed with his operation. His name is Nick Stageberg, and he's in about 1,300 doors, but I really want to dig into operations. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks so much. It's an honor, a privilege to be here with you.
Well, that's kind of you to say that. Please say hi to the boss for me when you go back home.
Will do.
And why don't you just start by telling us a little bit of your background? I know you come from an IT background, which is very common in this industry, and frankly, a positive in my view, because it ties together so often. But yeah, give us a little backstory.
Absolutely. So I have a bachelor's degree in ministry and a bachelor's degree in computer science. I'm kind of a man of faith, man of science, and had a very successful career in IT. Had a chance to get in the ground floor of one tech startup. We went from $13 million in venture capital to $100 million in private equity sale over the course of 9 years, and then had the privilege to do a software development startup for the Mayo Clinic, help them create a software development consultancy, the intrapreneurship movement, where big companies start companies underneath their umbrella. We went from just a handful of people to 13 teams of engineers, about 73 engineers I was leading over the course of 3 years, and we were doing about a third of all new development for the enterprise. So that was just a crazy trip. Over the course of 15 years, I felt like I'd kind of, conquered every mountain you could conquer in tech. And then along the way, if you Google, what do you do to get financial freedom? What do you do to invest? Just real estate is what keeps coming back over and over again. So along the way, like we bought one house one year and two houses the next year.
Where?
And four houses. So at that time we were in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And then we relocated to Rochester, Minnesota, and just buying, kind of houses and small multifamily properties and stuff along the way, and just kind of organically grew. And in June of 2019, I stepped back from my W-2 job and started doing the real estate thing full time. That kind of became like the next startup. And eventually we started, kind of serving investors through that journey. And then now we have a, private equity fund with $350 million in assets under management. So it's been a heck of a ride. It helps having gone through that journey a couple of times before in the tech world, but it's definitely a helpful vantage point to have that IT background. And then my wife Elaine, she's my full partner in the business. She's a physician trained at Mayo Clinic, just a brilliant woman, and she does a lot of like our capital raising, investor relations. The joke is she raises the money and I spend the money, and so we both have a background of connecting with people, serving with people, but also kind of analytical, right? So it's served us well in our real estate journey.
Yeah. When I met you guys, she was a force to be reckoned with. I remember. Keep you on your toes.
Oh yes.
So you've got about, 350 million in assets under management now, 1,300 doors, and you own some yourself. You also syndicate. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think, we started having you talk about how you've taken some Class D properties and turned them around, and you look at it as part of your mission work. And I'll be candid. I'm going to be transparent with you. I just had a bad experience with an ex-partner who hung his hat on religion and was And so I always tighten up a little bit when somebody says that. But the fact that you've got a degree in it takes it to another level in my view. But I'm just being transparent with you.
Absolutely.
That always concerns me. The last couple of times I ran across someone that talked religion, I got screwed, and so I'm a little gun shy, but I remember our conversation. I don't remember if that came up or not, but just throw that out there. I don't know if it's relevant or not, but I don't know if have you seen hypocrisy in that world where someone will talk about it and then really be a nefarious character? Have you seen
there's fools and cheats everywhere,
right,
in every walk of life and every faith, and I don't think there's a correlation one way or another, but
No?
definitely, definitely makes my hair stand up when I see a wolf in sheep's clothing. There's
Yeah.
nothing more despicable than that.
Yeah.
And it's not something I typically wear on my sleeve, but definitely something that came up immediately in our conversation here.
Mm-hmm.
And then also when it comes to housing, you need to make sure that those two things don't intersect, because fair housing laws, you make sure you're compliant with all those things. So we're definitely not Chick-fil-A. We're not a religious organization in any way, shape, or form. When I say mission, I speak more to when you have enough money, more money is not going to get you up in the morning. It has to be about so much more than
Giving
that.
back.
And
Yeah.
so we look at, what are ways that we can make money, but also do good. So you mind if I share a story?
No,
Yeah.
please
So-
share a story, and and I've got a shout out about something you told me a minute ago, but tell your story first.
Sure. So we bought. This is like I would say a somewhat prototypical deal for us. Every deal is different, but here's a prototypical deal. And we bought a Class D apartment building in a historic area. It's a 100-year-old apartment building, and we bought that for about $62,000 a unit. And next block over, there's $1 million single-family homes, and everybody has this dynamic in their market.
Gentrifying area.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So this is not like a unique thing or whatever. And the previous owner, I think, maybe had counted on knocking it down one day or something like that. And
How
it
many
just,
doors?
26 doors in that particular building. And in the basement unit, it's always in a basement unit of one of these buildings, there's a unit where we couldn't get into it before we bought it. They hadn't paid rent in 2 years because this was during the pandemic, and theoretically you couldn't evict people for non-payment of rent. And we bought the building. We go in there and we do just a safety inspection. We just give them notice and say, hey, we're going to inspect the unit for any safety hazards. And we step foot in the unit, and then we have to step back and go get some PPE.
It was that bad.
And we went and got 5-gallon buckets, and we filled up those buckets with drug paraphernalia and torches and just every manner of sadness and tragedy you could imagine. And went to this woman and said, there is no judgment in our heart whatsoever for you. You're a beautiful soul, but this does not happen on our watch. And so we're going to be back tomorrow and the next day and the next day. We're going to do daily safety checks on this unit, and we will not stop until you've been served. And we support local drug rehab programs and stuff. We just helped one program upgrade their kitchen. We know it's a hard phone call to make. We can dial the phone. We can give you a ride, whatever it takes. And obviously, you can just leave. If you don't like us being here and you don't want to, get clean, like that's your choice. You're a free soul. And it took 3 visits. And she got help, and she's in a much better place today. And so that's the mission component right there. Just last week we had one tenant who was fatally inebriated, and we made a judgment call to enter the unit, which can be a legally precarious thing sometimes. And my team.
How did you know, though? I mean, how did you know to enter the unit? How did you know they were drunk?
So their parents had been in touch with us and said they were in the hospital. And so that was like a little bit of a weird situation. So the unit was vacant, and but the parents were covering the rent, which is a little bit of an unusual situation. And we do constant vacancy checks on our units, and anytime a unit's vacant, we need to be inside that unit constantly. And then we were notified that the tenant was back in, and great. And then my team was on site and just chatting with neighbors, and one of the neighbors had shared that they heard like a thunk or something like that. It's just a very just a very in passing kind of comment, right? It wasn't, hey, I think there's a problem. My team's like, someone's in the hospital, and something doesn't seem right. And knock on the door, and finally decide, I think this does constitute an emergency, right to enter. And there was that person, laid out on the floor. If a few more hours had gone by,
Done, huh?
they would not still be with us.
Wow.
And so that's the mission piece right there.
No, love
is how can we serve people? But here's the thing. It turns out that doing the right thing is the profitable thing. It's like that historic building where we turned someone's life around. We bought it for $62 a unit. It's worth like at least $125 a unit today. And when you solve the really hard problems, that's when you create massive value. And it's not always possible. You can't buy in a Class D location. But when you solve a hard problem, you create massive value for everyone involved.
And you called that a class, because I called you out when you told me this before we started recording. I'm like, a Class D property, are you out of your freaking mind? Because I've had Class D properties, but and I said, they're a mistake. We went back and forth a little bit on this, unless they're in a better area. But you said so that's in a Class B area. Yeah, if there's $1 million homes nearby, I'm guessing antebellum, 3-story, 800. Yeah, there was an area like that in Denver that I could have bought whole blocks for $20,000 a pop. Houses for $20,000 a pop. These are 100-year-old houses, and they are $1 million places now. Yeah, there was a place. I bought this just to digress for a second. I bought a 4-plex that was all 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot units side by side, like a row, 2-story, with the garages. And I paid $80,000 for all 4, and each one's worth $1 million now. Yeah, crazy. And if you can buy in a gentrifying area where the coffee shops come in, the eclectic art studios come in, you still got crime, you still got drugs, but you see it's moving that direction. You have to have some cojones, and you have to hang in there for a while, but it can be a huge play.
So Warren Buffett defines the optimal profile for investment as something that has a steady, consistent, dependable return with the chance for a wild upside, which is a peculiar way to describe something. Like gold, it doesn't really fit that classification. Crypto, it maybe has this wild upside, but it's not steady or consistent. And if you can buy in a gentrifying area, and if you can be the change, it fits that bill perfectly. So if you can buy a Class D property, bring it up to a C+, B-, something you can live with for the foreseeable future. That's where great fortunes are made.
Improve the demographic as well. 100%. Obviously, got to change out the drugs and the crime and all that, because they're in there, and you got to get them out.
If you can buy the worst house on the block, it raises up the block. Or in our case, we love to buy the entire block. So in Rochester, our core market, Mayo Clinic is. They just announced a $5 billion expansion of their campus. That's double the cost of like a Apple headquarters on Midwestern dollars.
That's huge.
Crazy of some money. And it was known that they would be doing this sometime in the next 5 or 10 years. And in this general area. So we went and we bought everything we could possibly buy. We just bought lotto tickets, and as long as we knew we could get to, a decent return profile in the time being, and we ended up owning about half of a city block, and there's $1 billion building on one side of the block and a $2 billion building on the other side of the block that's going in.
Wow.
And we paid about $10 million for that half a city block in between. And just pennies on the dollar compared to what's coming there. Now a lot of that stuff needed some love.
Yeah, well, that's a long-term play.
Yeah.
I know that you're vertically integrated. Talk about that for a moment, because that's unusual that you're as vertically integrated as you are, which is why I wanted to talk about operations. Actually, before we do that, you definitely have a lot more elbow grease and time commitment when you're dealing with D-class assets. I don't care any way you shake it. I'll argue that one tooth and nail with you, because it's 100%. A lot more work.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more work.
100 times more work.
You got more evictions. You got troubled tenants. You've got a 100-year-old building. You can have a lot more maintenance and so on and so forth. But more in the tenant profile and the collections is just such a pain in the ass. So, but if you've got, I didn't know Warren Buffett had that quote. It's a great quote, which makes complete sense. If you can buy something and survive for the possibility of what you just described, that's a very interesting play.
100%. Yeah. And the key thing for us is it starts out there, but within a year, it needs to get to B-, C+ territory for it to make sense for us. It's not something we can shoulder. It would kill my team.
Oh yeah, no.
So
you'd have burnout, man.
Exactly.
Property manager burnout, dealing with evictions from the same people every freaking month, and and collections and crime and all that.
We get the opposite. Our team, they walk the properties today, and they're like, "Man, I remember when we bought this thing. It was rough just walking around, and today just look at this." And our team lights up when they walk those assets today.
Yeah, that's rewarding. I know you do 5% profit share, you said, and I'm going to give you a shout out. You didn't even bring it up when we talked about your mission. You give 5% of your proceeds to charity as well. It's beautiful, beautiful thing. I do the
built
same.
a school last year. It was one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done.
Where?
So we found an abandoned 40,000 square foot office building, and there's a local
in your area?
Yeah, in Rochester.
Oh.
And there's lots of people involved. I can't take
Right.
I'm going
Got
to
it.
give all the credit to other people here, but we helped, get teachers and parents there ripping up carpet and rolling paint, and it actually just got permanent financing here a few months ago. So it's $5.1 million all in on the purchase, and it just appraised for $8.3 million. So we didn't.
And you took it down, or you were one of the GPs in the deal, or how'd that?
We helped them put it together.
Okay.
The cool thing is when you want to do something awesome, everybody helps. No one says no. Like this building was underwater. The owner was losing everything. The bank was taking a haircut. The broker waived their commission. There were two brokers involved. They waived their commission. Everybody just at least some good will come of this loss. And there's office space everywhere in the country that's in this situation right now. Sure. I thought it was going to be like a hard push of, squeezing people and trying to get no, everybody just wanted to help any way they could. And then when all was said and done, this building is now worth so much more after the adaptive reuse. And I can't go out and stroke a check for $3 million to a charity. Not today, not yet anyway.
Right, not
but
yet.
we can pitch in with a fair amount of capital and then our expertise to help put together a deal like that. To help, we're meeting with the banker, soliciting the different banks.
Private school, public school. What'd you turn it into?
Yeah, so it's so there was an existing charter school that was in the basement of a 70-year-old church building.
Oh wow!
An amazing it's an international baccalaureate curriculum school, very like academically rigorous. Doesn't have like a religious affiliation or anything like that. Just a really beautiful mission. Their uniforms say, "Gratitude is my attitude."
Oh, I love it.
You walk in, there's this 12-foot tall mural that just says ambition. Like our kids need that, whatever that is. That's what our kids need. But like you can't really have that in a creepy old church basement. That doesn't work. So we said, I would really love for you to have like a beautiful new building that's 4 or 5 times what you've got now, that is in a better location, that has windows, and we got them kind of on a really sustainable path. That school is set for 50 years financially.
No kidding. I love that. Gratitude is our attitude. I literally just texted one of my friends today that's stressed out, and I said, it's impossible to feel fear, or what we achievers call stress, as you've heard from the Tony environment. It's impossible. By the way, he's a Tony Robbins guy too. He's been a platinum partnership, been to all the events like I have. I was a plat as well. And so I texted. I said, it's impossible to feel fear, or what we achievers call stress, if you're in gratitude. I literally just sent that text to somebody this morning. Love it, love it, love it. Well, that is beautiful work, brother. Okay, that is beautiful work. And I apologize for bringing up my negative experiences in the whole genre of doing the right thing. That's beautiful work. So now let's talk about operations, because I'm super impressed with how integrated you are. When you hear integrated, vertically integrated, maybe somebody's got a construction company and a property management company. Typically it's just the property management company, but then some people also bring in the construction arm. But what else have you got? You've got carpet cleaning, you've got all these other things.
Well, we tried carpet cleaning. That did not go so well.
Okay,
we do a lot of experiments, but in-house cleaning, in-house maintenance, in-house construction, lawn and snow, that's a really tough one that very few people bring in-house. The property management is the quarterback of the whole thing. We have a real estate sales team that I don't understand why.
Oh, so you're a broker as well then?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay, so you're selling real estate.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Every single one of our lease agreements has a clause that says you can terminate your lease for free during the high season if we help you buy a home. That's the first line. All of our rental advertisements helps us capture an incredible demographic, an incredible cohort. People, millennials today, they want the optionality that goes associated. Like they don't necessarily buy houses that often, but they love the freedom, the feeling that goes. Exactly. Yep.
Got it.
So everything that we do is just like that, where there's an opportunity to create massive value. We're not just saving costs; we save a huge amount of costs, but we're creating additional value for the tenant, for the asset. Another example of that, snow removal. So this is a monster to take on. We bought 1-ton trucks and plows. Power broom. You're down in Florida, so you may not know what any of this is, but trying to clear snow in Minnesota.
I know what a power broom is, but I've never heard of it for snow. I've heard of it for dirt.
That's the Cadillac of snow removal. So
the Cadillac of snow removal.
That's right. So you buy a tractor. You buy a 7-foot full size tractor.
Okay.
And you hook up a power broom to it. and you roll it down your sidewalk. And the bristles are so thorough that when you're done, you don't need to salt it. Well, that salt, it destroys your concrete. So if you're throwing down salt, which is what a typical snow removal company does, you have to go replace your concrete every 20 years. It's like a massive CapEx nightmare. And the plow company...
So this thing goes right down the sidewalk?
Yeah. Yep, down the streets, everything. It's all heated. It's got a sound system.
Holy
we've
cow.
got best-in-class equipment for our team, and they're able to clear snow so thoroughly that, again, you don't even need to salt. Every flake is gone.
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
And the tenants appreciate that they've got best-in-class snow removal, so your quality standard is like up here.
Right.
And you don't have your vendors running over water caps in your parking lot and your curbs. Just typically you spend thousands of dollars every year just cleaning up all the damage that your vendor's done. And then typically you pay a retainer. So you're paying whether they come or not. You're paying just for them to be on standby.
Right.
So this year was one of our least snowy years ever in Minnesota history. So we actually had 80% year-over-year cost savings on snow removal.
Because you had it yourself.
And
And
then
you got your CapEx cost of getting all the equipment and everything.
Well, that's
but
financed largely.
Is it?
So we're able to meet our debt service there
so
on the
that's
equipment.
included.
And we just paid some debt service for the equipment to largely sit idle. And my guys, they have other things they can do. They don't just sit around twiddling their thumbs waiting for the snow to fall. So then put a 5 cap or a 6 cap on that. Like, that's how much value we've added to those buildings. Like, we've got one property. It's a 15-acre townhome community. And we would have ordinarily spent $100,000 on our snow removal retainer.
$100,000?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a huge property.
Holy cow.
Huge. I mean, sidewalks of 115 townhomes, 115 driveways, private streets. I mean, it would take a crew a very long time to go through that, that property. And I think our total cost was like $15,000 this year.
Shit.
It just is staggering savings. Now, it's not easy. It's not easy to go out and spend, $250,000 on equipment that you then have to protect and maintain and service, and then the people that go with it. You have to have equipment operators, like very expensive
guys.
guys.
To get licensed.
Yep.
So did you take some of your maintenance guys and get them licensed? Is that what you did?
So this is a great example of what we do. I like to rally around the passions of the people I lead. So we hire amazing people that are a good culture fit, ask them, what's your background? What do you love doing? What can you bring to the table? And we hired a couple of guys who they had previously worked for a snow removal company. It's very difficult work. You wake up at 2 a.m. and you might be working for 20 hours straight when you're doing, blizzard removal on a big portfolio. Yeah. So it takes a special person who knows their limits. They know when to stop. They know not to drive when they're dangerous. It takes special people. And I just said, okay, if you had a blank check to get all the equipment you needed to clear the snow in our portfolio, what would that look like? Now, these guys, they do not look like a private equity asset manager persona. These are beautiful souls, but they've got, like, it looks like
tattoos,
Duck Dynasty or something like that. Yeah. But man, I love these guys. And they sat down with like a legal pad, just like you've got there. And they sketched out a budget, a CapEx budget, an equipment budget, how many person hours would be required. They sketched out routes. Like, they had a more thorough business plan than most fund managers I know.
No kidding.
And that's because they're passionate about it and they enjoy the work. They know that I'm putting a ton of trust into them on their feedback. That's actually what they said.
Are they doing other work? I guess I would think that's because that's not full-time work that you would cross-collateralize them with something else.
100%. Yeah.
Did you do that?
Oh, those guys do amazing work. And that's the real pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with vertical integration, because now that we own that tractor platform, it's $100,000 investment to buy one of these, commercial agricultural grade tractors that can do. So now we bought an excavator. Well, your excavator, implement, that's only $15,000. And so we're doing this heavy duty foundation repair project that ordinarily we have to go pay $50,000 to a foundation repair company that brings in their excavator. And we're going to do it in-house for like 15 or 20 because now we own an excavator for a fraction of the cost. And the guys that can run the plows, they can run the excavator. It's not a path for everyone. Right. It's investment heavy, and you need to have a critical mass of assets in one area to do a lot of this stuff. We've got 1,000 doors in one area, but this is just one tiny example of what we do in every aspect of our business. We're constantly asking ourselves, like, we own a Matterport camera, we own an aerial survey,
camera?
A Matterport camera.
What is that? One of the virtual,
it's a 3D, yes, the
camera.
robotic motorized. Most people, they pay $500 or something like that to a Matterport capture their property. A Matterport camera costs, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000. Like, that's a more
so someone can go in and walk different directions? That's that one of those cameras?
Yeah, you pick
Got
up
it.
the tripod, move it, it spins around.
Right.
I'm saying like a more imminently achievable thing for most listeners here, go buy a Matterport camera. So then it pays for itself after you do like 10 Matterport shoots or whatever, and then you own the camera. So let's say you have like a tough move out and you know it's going to be like contested in court. The damages, like the judge can't believe there was $15,000 in damage to the unit. Well, we're going to go into that unit. We're going to do a Matterport tour of that unit. And we're going to have, 10,000 megapixel, 360 degree documentation of, yes, there were, damages to the trim of every surface from dogs or whatever the damage is. Like, that's just not something that you can do if you don't have that vertical integration piece. So we're able to create massive value in every step of the value chain. Everything that we do, we're constantly asking ourselves, how can we bring this in-house, not pay a vendor to do this? We go through our expenses on, I want to buy a garbage truck, which is a licensing thing. We're working on getting licensed with the county. Because right now, garbage is our number one line item expense other than utilities. And I haven't figured out how to make my own gas or electricity yet.
Solar.
Yep. I'm working on that. The numbers there are tough. But we could hit a 1-year payback period on if we get the licensing to buy a garbage truck and haul out our own trash.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And just haul it to the dump.
Yep.
Interesting. Not pick up dumpsters, but haul people's trash bags.
So no. So it's a very flawed business model with dumpster haul off for apartments. And anyone listening that owns an apartment building, you feel me. Mm-hmm. You rent the dumpster from the garbage company, which it's the worst rental you're ever going to get for a property. And then they come and kind of pick up the trash, mostly when they say, and they pick up most of the trash. And then let's say a tenant, for example, leaves a couch. They might, add a surcharge for that couch. Mm-hmm. And that surcharge is 99.9% profit for them if they pick it up at all. And my team spends a crazy amount of time managing our trash collection services.
Same.
Whereas if we have our own garbage truck and there's a couch there and we have one of our own staff members that's hauling the trash, they're going to go take a photo, put it into property management chat. We use Google Chat to communicate, hey, figure out what jackalope left this trash out, go look at our security camera footage, and then they just throw it in the back of the truck, crunch it up, and haul it off for no additional cost. Additional cost. So there's this huge disalignment when you have most third-party services like that and you cure that alignment. Bringing in-house lawn, here's what I told my guys. I want you to go do a 360-degree exterior property inspection of all of our properties every couple of weeks. And while you're at it, if you could mow the lawn, that would be great. So someone leaves a couch in their front yard at a townhome, and within hours, they have a call from our property management staff of, hey, we saw there was a couch in the front yard. What's going on with that? You should probably not have a lawn couch. That's not something that's acceptable in our community, because our lawn guys are out there cruising around and they snap a little picture. Here's this unit number. They put it in a property management chat. You are never going to get that asset Overwatch with a third-party vendor.
No,
it's never going to happen.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
absolutely great idea.
Yep.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And that's not feasible for a lot of operators that are spread out.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in one geographic location, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
Why not carpet cleaning? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to go micro on this, but this is fascinating to me because I used to own a carpet cleaning business.
This is where the gold is.
One of the stupid things that I did. But why not carpet cleaning?
I want anyone listening to this show to walk away with at least one action item, a specific thing they can do. So I love getting into the weeds. Let's not talk about generalities. So we went and we spent $5,000 or $10,000 on carpet cleaning stuff.
Right,
on
the equipment.
The largest mobile carpet cleaning equipment you can get. So
not truck mounted.
Not truck mounted.
Gotcha.
That's the problem, is we didn't get the truck mounted. The truck mounted, that's like a $50,000 to $100,000 investment right there. It's a huge investment. Then you have to maintain it, and you have to all the chemicals that go with it, and the licensing, and your road weight, and most of my facility staff, almost every single one of them is female. And really, carpet cleaning, it turns out, is more of like there's a dude pushing around that really heavy equipment. It's a heavy, yeah. So we got like the largest piece of equipment that my facility staff could manage, and is very time inefficient. So we ended up spending, way too much time shampooing carpets. You have to have the truck mounted equipment with some big dudes. That's all they're doing all day. So they know the equipment. They can move fast. They've got all the, here's this stain. I know I've seen this stain before. I'm going to do this chemical and this chemical. And so that was something, and we fail all the time. We tried to do an appliance company. Turns out appliance companies, it's like the mafia, literally. And
oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So to try to get a license
to
to buy appliances is Like you have to pay some bribe money, like
Wow.
literally to get, to even be allowed to have a conversation with the manufacturer. And so that was
Interesting.
another failed experiment because that's one of our highest line items is appliance purchases. And right now we buy them from Lowe's, Home Depot, Costco. We do, competitive bid every time we go buy 100 appliances, and it seems really inefficient. Well, it turns out, I was ready to open a storefront, to open a service department.
Just to be able to buy them yourself.
Exactly.
Even if you don't sell any out of the storefront.
Exactly.
I've had the same thought many, many times.
But it's very difficult. And you have to go to the other person who already has that territory and say, hey, can you cut me into your territory?
Oh, no
Good luck with that conversation.
No
that's
kidding.
that's a difficult conversation.
Because the brands give territories then.
Exactly, just like car dealerships.
Got
yeah.
it. Okay. Well, sorry to go in the weeds so much here, guys, but
No,
this stuff
huge.
fascinates me. Well, Nick, as you know, you suffered through some of my podcasts before you came here, you said, just to get acclimated. I have a lot of aspiring multifamily investors. They're in the rat race. They have a W-2 job. They know they want more out of life. Maybe they're caught up in analysis paralysis, fear, limiting beliefs, whatever it is. All this stuff from the Tony Robbins environment.
Mm-hmm.
What suggestions would you have for someone that knows they need to do something? Give them some motivation, will you please?
So I'm gonna borrow some advice from Tony Robbins.
All right.
And Tony would tell you to go find a 9-goaler. That's his polo Stampede Stallion. So that's someone who's an expert at what they do, someone who is an absolute rock star of what they do, and provide them with massive value. Go find, I'm going to say that a second time, if you want to do anything in life, go find the person that's just crushing it at that thing. Find out what their problem is, what needs you can meet, and provide them with more value than they could ever possibly expect. And I'll give you a very visceral example of that. So there's this person in my life. His name is James. He's a sharp young kid, and he heard that advice, and then some from me on a podcast or something, I think, reached out to me and just said, "How can I provide you with massive value?" And I'm like, "I don't know." We had this kind of interesting conversation, and so right before I flew out to Sarasota here, I went and did due diligence on an apartment building. And it's an income-restricted community outside of my core market, and he lives kind of near this core market. So I called him and said, "Hey, I'm going to go do due diligence on this building. You want to come along?" He's like, "Hell yeah, I'll drive you, send me the financials. I'll tell you what I think." Did 6 hours of groundwork in advance. We walked the building. He's like, "Here's what I see. Nick, what do you see? What are you looking for when we're walking around here?" And then we went to a McDonald's that was next door, and we sat and did underwriting until midnight that night.
Wow.
And I'm sure he got more benefit from spending, half a day with me, walking a property, seeing how am I underwriting it, how am I formulating my offer, than a person stuck in analysis paralysis, kind of, just go out and do something, ride shotgun. Even if you just give someone a ride, I promise you that there is someone out there who is in the business that is driving their car around town and just offer, "Hey, would it be okay with you if I just drove you around, took you to meetings? I could sit in on your meetings, take notes for you, get you coffee. Would that, you don't need to talk to me. I'm just going to listen." There is someone in your market, pause this show and go call that person right now. You know someone that you can bring massive value to. And if you do that, everything you need is going to flow back to you. It's just how the world works.
The way the world works, the way the universe works. Love it. That's a good one. And I get hit up all the time, as I'm sure you do. For hey, can I come work for you for free? And it's just like, oh, I don't know what I'd have you do. But
no, you have to bring the value. You can't put it on them.
Right.
Hey, I see you're doing this. Can I help you with this? Yeah. You have to be very specific and deliberate and intentional about it. And if you do that, you'll be extraordinarily successful. I recently learned to ski, and I went to the ski resort. I'm 41 years old, 40 years old. I'm almost 41 here in a few days. And I went to a ski resort, and I said, who's your best ski instructor? And it's this guy. Okay, can I get a day with this guy? And I talked to him, and as we're getting our gear and putting things together, I'm asking about his life, and hey, what are you struggling with? He's having problems with his significant other, and I don't know, just the normal problems. And I just loved him and cared about him, sincerely. Hey, have you tried this? Have you thought about doing this? Hey, here's my cell number. Feel free to give me a call if there's anything I can do to help you with that. And we finally get to the top of the mountain, and I spend the day with him, and I learned to ski. I'm blue proficient after one day on the mountain because I'm dialed into this guy. He's dialed into me. He's, oh, no, Nick, don't do that. You got to do this. Like, he knows I'm going to take the feedback because we've already had this conversation where the shoe's on the other foot. And I'm telling him, dude, like, just hammer me. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong, how I can do better. I'm not going to give up until I figure this out. And I don't want you to give up on me. And, some people, it takes them a long time to learn how to ski. And, again, to quote Tony Robbins, you can turn decades into days. Mm-hmm. You just find someone who's a master at their craft, bring a massive value in that. Like, that's just how God or the universe or people work, is when you love other people and you care for other people and you take care of other people, people care about you. Yeah. And you, like, the things that you want just come to you effortlessly in, like, avalanches of abundance. And if that sounds like woo-woo nonsense, I encourage you to just try it once. It'll blow your mind.
There's a sign right there. Oh, no, that's not it. It's downstairs. It says, God's wealth flows through me in avalanches of abundance. Thank you, Amen. God. And those avalanches are, of course, money, but people and love and friendships and so on and so forth. So talk about, in this journey of yours, because you started in single family, you went to multifamily, you're involved in, it appears, other asset classes, schools. Are you in any others besides that? No, just multifamily.
No, we've got a bunch of commercial just because of mixed use projects. We're always going after
retail underneath some apartments or whatever.
Yeah, so we've got, I don't know, 20 retail units or whatever. Okay. We've got 50,000 square feet of commercial or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. In this journey of yours, talk about any aha moments that you had, any epiphanies where you're like, okay, now I get it. I need to be doing this or whatever. Anyway.
Oh, man.
I mean, of course, there's numerous ones.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a doozy or two if you can think of something.
Absolutely. So we've got $350 million assets under management. We just launched a fund a couple months ago, raised $15 million in a day. Like, that seems maybe unrelatable to certain listeners. In 2013, we bought a single family home. So this is hopefully like hyper relatable. Okay. We bought our first like purposeful, class D to class B remodel, the thing that became
2013.
In 2013,
so
11 years ago. Okay. 11 years ago, not that long ago.
Your first house.
This is our first purposeful, Gotcha. We're going to buy this through deep value. There was no BRRRR wasn't a word back then, but right. This is the first time we did this business model, which is our business model to this day. It's a BRRRR business model.
Sure, same.
And this property was vacant for 6 years. We paid $35,000 for it. Needed everything. My wife and I, we were on our hands and knees laying ceramic tile and painting and doing as much as we possibly could ourselves, sweat equity. We did about $17,000 in rehab, not including the value of our own time. So we're at $52,000 all in on this deal. And then we got an appraisal. I don't remember the exact appraisal. It was close to $100,000 when we got done. And then we got a loan. We got like $60,000 at closing. So we got all of our money back out plus a little bit more. And I remember sitting in the parking lot of the bank and I felt like I just robbed the bank.
Yeah.
I'm holding this check, this paper check. I insisted they give me a paper check. I didn't want a wire. I wanted to hold that check in my hand for $60,000. I'm like, I know I've only got $52,000 in this thing and I can go do another one. And another one. It took us like 6 weeks to do the remodel and then another month to do the refi. And I mean, at the time, I was leading engineers in my day job with this, high-powered education and background and creating millions of dollars for investors and stuff. But at the end of the day, I made like $50,000 in 6 weeks just doing this. It was almost insulting how simple it was compared to what I was doing by day. And I thought to myself, I need to dedicate the rest of my money-earning life to getting as many of these checks as we possibly can. I'll fast forward to 2018.
Before you move on,
go ahead.
Before you move on, I mean, don't forget your thought where you were going to go. But you were killing it in the IT world. I mean, you had this. You were doing this Mayo Clinic thing. I mean, big names, big money. Big team, must have been making big W-2 income. Why'd you even look at real estate?
So this is a little bit of a painful story. Okay. But
and please don't forget where you were going to go after
no,
this.
Not at all.
I cut you off. Okay.
Not at all.
All right.
So that first house that I bought, in technology, there's this thing called proof of concept. So if you want to go do this like big $10 million project, the worst thing you could ever do is go spend $10 million and launch the project. What you got to do is you got to go do a $10,000 project, the smallest increment, the minimum viable product that you can get experience, get feedback. Okay, we don't actually want to do this. We want to do this. Okay, we can do this. Then you do a $100,000 project. Then you do $1 million project. And that $35,000 house was my proof of concept, my minimum viable product for this payday that would one day come when that tech company sold, when that first tech company sold. And then 6 months before the sale, they terminated me and seized my stock options. Oh. There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Wow.
And that is super common in the industry. You know, you go watch The Social Network, Pirates of Silicon Valley, like people get cut out all the time. And
so you got screwed.
Yeah, and I had PTSD. I was like reliving that day for 6 months in a nightmare. And that house, you know, it was supposed to be this proof of concept for one day going out and buying this vast, you know, fortune of real estate with the winnings from tech, and those winnings never came to be. And I thought that house was like a poke in the eye. For 6 months, I wanted to burn that house to the ground. And then one day, a switch flipped, and I realized, you know what? I spent 9 years, 9 of my prime working years. You get old fast in technology. I spent the 9 best years I've got, and I have a nice salary, but little more to show for it. I spent 6 weeks on this house, and I've got $50,000 to show for it. I know I can go do that again and again and again and again. And in 3 years, I was financially free. Now, it was not an easy 3 years. My wife was in residency, young kids.
Okay.
No
you
exaggeration.
Grind for a few years like
That's
most
right.
people won't. You live the rest of your life like most people can't.
Amen.
Bottom
That's exactly right. Anyone listening can go do what I did. And you might say, oh, the economy was easier then, or it's all different. You know, I went from Oklahoma buying houses for $35,000 to buying houses for $250,000 in Minnesota. It was almost a 10x spread. And I thought, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I found a way. You can always find a way. People are making money in real estate everywhere. My path is totally reproducible. It's not easy. I was working, so I'd go in early, in a very demanding job, work from 6 a.m. until 2 in the afternoon. Then I'd clock into my real estate gig, and I'd go look at houses. I was swinging a hammer. I was managing contractors. I was at Home Depot, and I'd work until midnight. And then I'd go home, collapse, and do it all over again. And then my wife was working overnights in residency. She's working 100 hours a week at the hospital at the Mayo Clinic. That's a demanding job.
Yeah.
And so one of us was working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a year in 2017. 2017 was an incredibly brutal year, but by 2019, we were financially free.
Nice.
We were financially free. So anyone can do a 3-year sprint to get to financial freedom.
No question. Absolutely. I've got numerous scores of warriors, my coaching students, that have done it. So besides Tony Robbins, which of course is one of my big mentors, did you have any other mentors?
Other thing.
That story. That's right.
So fast forward to 2018. So 2013, I got that first cash out refi check for $60,000. 2018, I got a cash out refi on a whole bunch of our houses, and the cash out refi proceeds were it was like $1,020,000. So it's just, and again, I insisted on a paper check at closing. I didn't want a wire.
Nice.
And I remember like flashing back to sitting in that parking lot of the bank in, what was that 5 years prior, saying I need to devote as much time as I can to getting more of these checks. And that's a big deal.
$1 million
check that's
not a poke in the
tax-free money to me,
from a refi.
No one else, from a refi. This is just pure winnings. Here's my $1 million check. Yeah. And the year after, that's when I stepped back from my W-2 career. So
I did a reaction video to a Robert Kiyosaki quote or interview where he got interviewed and said, I don't pay taxes because I borrow money. And what are we up to on that thing now? 1 million?
Over 2 million.
Oh, we're over 2 million views on it. I got more freaking hate. You're the reason this country's, paying your taxes. And I'm like, I had to do a reaction video to the responses that I got saying, no, this country was set up to promote, property ownership because people need a freaking place to live. And that's why they give tax benefits. It's why Trump doesn't pay taxes. Why I don't pay taxes. You don't pay taxes. None of us pay taxes in the real estate business because people need a place to freaking live. Anyway, I just had to.
Food and shelter is what people need.
That's right.
One of these days I'll go grow some corn to get those subsidies. Like, this isn't some loophole. We're not being clever.
Yeah.
The IRS says, here's this huge subsidy if you go provide affordable market rate housing to the people. And I'm doing exactly what the government asked me to do.
Yeah, and when you refinance, you haven't taken a profit.
That's
You're
right.
borrowing money, and so you're not going to pay tax on that unless you sell. Period.
That's right.
And if you never sell, you'll never pay tax on.
We never sell
on that borrowed money. Of course, no. I interviewed. My first interview was a billionaire named Albert Barras. Yeah, it was my first number one interview, and I'll tell you a funny story. I'm an hour in, I realized I forgot to hit record. Oh, I was mortified. But But he told me something that really stuck with me, and he said, "I'm a real estate buyer, not a seller."
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that quote.
What does the word monopoly mean?
Right.
One seller. There's an antonym of monopoly. It's monopsony. That means one buyer. I would love to be a monopsony. I don't ever want to be a monopoly. I want to be a monopsony. So that's a fun word that very few people know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you suffered through some of my podcasts, I do these Own Your Power clips on a weekly basis, although I think I missed a week here, but which is very unusual. I'm in a little bit of a firestorm right now because I'm taking over a bunch of assets. I believe 80 to 90% of success in anything is your mindset.
Absolutely.
And I know you do as well because you're from the Tony environment. Tell me, you joined the Tony Robbins ecosystem like I did. What have you gotten out of that environment? Just curious, because I'd like listeners to hear the value, not just of Tony, but just being in an environment like that.
Absolutely. So this is going to sound a little outlandish, but I probably credit Tony with about half of everything I have today.
Yeah.
Like I was doing pretty well before I encountered, that kind of thought leadership ecosystem, and I'm in a bunch of different masterminds, and I had done technical kind of masterminds and stuff. I'm a spiritual person, so like I feel like I'm exposed to a lot of positive mindset type stuff. But Tony makes it very practical and actionable. Yeah. So teaching you techniques on how to change your state and how to curate your environment. And so just a perfect example of this. Tony will challenge you to say your business, if it's less successful than you feel like it should be, it's because you're not listening to your customers. You have these platitudes that say, oh, yes, the customer's always right or the customer comes first. No, the customer is definitely not always right. And I believe your team should come first, not your customers. If you treat your team well, like your customers are going to get taken care of. But Tony will say, you tell yourself you have these limiting beliefs of we can't make money doing that, or that's not the business that we got into, or I don't want to do that. Well, ask yourself some more empowering questions, like who could I hire that would love to do that? And what would be the business model where I could generate a profit? I could profit handsomely from meeting this need. The market, if you're listening to this podcast, the market is screaming at you for value. Like someone has told you that they want something from you and you've said no. So I challenge you to just go say yes. And I remember I walked out of my first Tony Robbins event, and I actually made up a metaphor to turn away investors more effectively, because people would approach us all the time and say, hey, I saw this picture on social media, this house you're renovating. I'd really love to get involved. How can I get involved with that? And I said, I've got a bunch of kids. I love raising my own kids, but I don't want to open a daycare.
Right.
And Tony opened my eyes to the extraordinary selfishness of that perspective. Like, no, this financial freedom thing, this is just for me, not for you. Go help yourself. Like, how sad is that? For years, I turned people away. So I walked out of my first Tony Robbins event and called the last 3 people that I said no to. And I called them and said, hey, I just listened to this maniac at this seminar, and he said to just say yes. So, I told you we're not working with investors, but I'm just going to say yes. And they're like, okay, tell me where to wire the money. I'm like, well, no, I haven't told you how it's going to work yet. In fact, I don't even really know how it's going to work yet. I haven't figured that part out. I don't care. Just tell me where to send the money. Well, that's weird. I call the next person. Same call. Call the next person. Same call. And that was really where like the current chapter of our business was born, in just saying yes to people that
That's
wanted
when you started
what we have.
syndicating.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so Tony, he does a good job of kind of pushing you off the cliff of there's this thing that you should do, and you're telling yourself you can't do it, you shouldn't do it, and he says just do it, and here's the motivation that you need to do it. So I could.
Was that a UPW?
Yeah, that was my
Unleash
first UPW.
You walk on fire the first night.
Absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, guys, I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan. I was on his actually on his team for 8 years, and if shout out to him. If you have an opportunity to see him live, just freaking do it. Trust me,
Absolutely.
You'll thank me. Okay, and you say it attributes half of your success. I would say the same thing, not just in business, relationships.
Oh yeah.
My health, business acumen. I was at his business mastery course last year, and I've been to it 8 times. Because you're working on different parts of your business. So it's something I do.
Here's my hard close for Tony.
Okay.
Tony says, I'm a Trojan horse. I give you what you want so that along the way I can give you what you need.
Oh, I like that.
And when I first met Tony, I'd left my day job and I wasn't really I don't know. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next, whatever. And that's when we came up with the 5% profit share, the 5% give back, our no fee model. Like, we want to change communities for the better. That's something that gets you up in the morning. And so Tony will teach you how to pursue fulfillment. And then like the achievement piece, it just comes effortlessly.
Yeah.
Like it's just, there's no grind when you're doing something you love, because
work is play.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's
no, that's good.
Yeah.
I talk about that as well. The science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment, and how fulfillment really is an art. We've been taught in our society to achieve, to be happy. But I will tell you, if you're giving back in any fashion, you're happily achieving. And I know it's a play on words, but power moves to those who serve, which is why you're so successful. Why I'm blessed to be successful, and because we serve. We try to help. We try to make the world a better place. Well, Nick, this has been a real hoot. By the way, guys, his website is Meet Black Swan, just like it sounds, meetblackswan.com. And I appreciate you coming on, brother. It's been a really fun conversation.
Thanks, Rod. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship Program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships, really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship Program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now, again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.